you're doing well. We've been studying on the Articles of the Tabernacle. As we've said last Sunday, we're not going to go through all the major or all of the various aspects, the sockets and the curtains and the many other elements, but those elements that do stand out and are typified specifically throughout the New Testament, because in Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 5, it tells us that the tabernacle and the articles are a symbol, a pattern. There was a pattern, and they speak. They're typical of something referring to Christ himself. And we certainly know that the priesthood refers to Christ, the priest, as is so beautifully laid out in Hebrews chapter 7. And the sacrifice, too, by the way, as is so beautifully laid out in Hebrews chapter 9 and 10. But beyond that, I want you to just take a moment and just kind of consider with me. We've been thinking about the altar of the brazen altar, or the altar of burnt sacrifice. And we talked about the sacrifices that would be morning and night. And there would be no one bringing sacrifices throughout the night, but that sacrifice in the fire would be there all night. It would be the means by which, if you will, God provided for them in the midst of darkness. But for every person, in the clarity of light, they would bring their sacrifice. Now, that brazen altar is the one place where everyone understood. They saw it. Now, beyond that point, only the priest could go into the holy place and the holiest of all, and then the holiest of all once a year. But the brazen altar, everyone brought their sacrifice. Everybody understood, whether it be a peace offering, a sin offering, a trespass offering, a burnt offering. They understood. This was where they related. This is what they could identify with. This is where they met God, as we've spoken of in the past, that this is where literally God said, my glory will be there, and I will meet with you there. It's an amazing thing that God says. I want you to consider for a moment that the centrality of that altar, and the fact that that's where everything in the tabernacle, everything, whether it be the altar of incense, the candlestick, the golden candlestick, the table of showbread, or the mercy seat, was touched by the blood that was shed at that altar. And that ought to tell us all something. And you'll notice that in order for anyone to go beyond that, you had to be a priest. Now, what happened to you and I when we got saved? We became believer priests. We did. But you'll notice, and I don't want to be too, figurative here, but a life had to be given in order for the priest to enter into his role. And before he could do anything, blood would have to be shed. He would have to be cleansed himself. And then he could institute his ministry. He could enter into and be consecrated for ministry. Take a moment and think about it. Why is the cross so important for us? Is it because we have to bear our cross, which means all the problems that we have are just our cross? Absolutely not. There's only one cross in your life and mine. I know Jesus said take up his cross, meaning it's personal, but there's only one cross. It's the cross that we take and follow him. It's his cross. It's his death, it's his burial, it's his resurrection, it's his blood that was shed. It's his blood in Revelation 1:5 that literally, purges us from our sin. It's his blood. It was his blood that paid for all the sins, was a propitiation for all the sins of the world in 1 John 2 and verse 1 and 2. It's his blood. It's his blood that purchased us, it says in 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20. It's his blood. It washes us clean, cleanses our conscience, provides for us. It's his blood. If I don't understand the value of taking up his cross, if I don't lay down my soul there as he laid down his in identification with him, if I don't enter into the reality of that truth, then in all honesty, I'll never truly understand any of the other elements of my Christian walk. I'll never understand the clarity that comes through the Word of God. I'll never understand the realities of fellowship that comes to be revealed in the showbread. I'll never understand the meaning or the value of prayer, and not even have the heart or the purpose for it. And I certainly will never understand God's incredible mercy that he poured out on my behalf on the mercy seat. I'll never understand it. That's why it's so important for you and I to take up our cross. In other words, our personal identification with what Christ did. It's a not I, but Christ. It's I die daily, as Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15. I believe it's verse 31. It's to live as Christ, to die is gain in Philippians 1:21. It's that whole mindset. It's a small thing to me if you speak of me, he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 4. I don't even think of myself. I put all that off until I stand before God. Or I have died to this world and this world is dead to me in Galatians 6:14. It's that. And if we have that spirit, then you know what? All the other elements become real and purposeful. And we see value. We actually have his insight into it. His spirit just guides us through it. It's what he was meant. That's why he came to show us these things. It all starts with, if I lose my life, I gain it. If I take my soul, place it on the altar, not just parts of it, but as the Spirit brings it up, if I can die to that, then I can live to him. Let's do a little dying today and do some real living. Till next time, friends, God bless you.